Okay. Sue,
Yes.
and Kathleen.
Yes. No public participation. Okay, approval of minutes of the November 2020 regular board meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll move. Tracy.
Second?
I'll second.
Second.
Kathleen, Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, correspondence.
Okay. So you can see if you got the emails and were able to look at the document, I listed the Public Library Fund for December, and Sarah had confirmed that yes, indeed, we got the money so far. It was slightly over what I think the estimated had been for the month. But for the year, our receipts are slightly over $800,000, and our budget had anticipated $775,000. So, we came in $25,000 to the plus side, and that's always a good thing, having more revenue than you anticipate. So that was good. Hopefully we'll see that continue into next year, at least up until it comes to be state budget time, and it is a new state budget this year, so it will be interesting to see how that all goes. And then I did also include for you in that emailing reminder, a scan of a card from Ginny Jacobs. If you are not able, it's pretty short, so I'll read it if anyone was unable to get that. And it was addressed directly to the board members. Ginny says, "Dear board members, she thought she was too late to get this to you this month, but she really wants you to let you know how much she appreciates all you have done to support the staff here at our libraries. I feel so blessed to have this job. I brag to others how well this library takes care of its staff. Thank you from myself and my family." So that's from Ginny at the Mount Orab Library. And I'm sure she is not the only staff member who feels that way. And I thought it important that you hear that directly from one of those staff members. We also did just receive a letter that had gone from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is, amongst other things, they were the organization that provided the money to the state for the GOO grant that we had for so many years. But they also were involved in helping to do the studies on COVID and how it stays or doesn't stay on library materials. And the letter was pretty generic. I also included that in Dropbox, but it was directed to state health departments, and I believe state health departments are, being asked to kind of take this into consideration, and I may eventually also bring it to the attention of our county health department. But I think our takeaways are still that we, are doing the right thing and probably doing a little more than is necessary on behalf of making sure that both our staff and our patrons are protected by quarantining materials, by cleaning them after they've been quarantined. And just remembering that transmission by items like that is not the primary means of transmission of the virus. And so we don't have to be as concerned with that kind of a process as we do with things like, being unmasked face to face for long periods of time, or, that kind of thing. We have to be more worried about the social distancing parts of the virus. And then as far as Ohio Library Council updates, first, I apologize. I don't know if I sent you a prior version of my correspondence, but I look and I see, well, what happened to what was supposed to be in letter 4A? And I have no idea. But anyway, one of the things I was going to tell you was that the Ohio Library Council asked us to participate in a survey about how we use the CARES money that was given to us from the state. So we did that. They did make a focus on making sure we were specific about the kind of expenditures, and particularly we're asking questions about digital literacy and how we might have spent money in that way. I suspect it might be because they're, are looking for the potential of using this as leverage for getting libraries, stronger and more stable funding in the future. But that's just my own little interpretation. There are some pieces of legislation that have had some action in the past month or so. I do not believe that I talked to you about House Bill 39 before. It's called, there's a long name for it. TMUDS is the little abbreviation they are using for it, but basically it is a piece of legislation that grants some tax credit for real estate development. And of course, if we're talking about property taxes, that impacts levies. They do not anticipate a huge impact on levies, and there's still some discussion about how that's all going to play out. Of course, the passing the legislation is only the first step, and you have to develop all the rules and how you're going to play it out on the ground. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that later. Also, House Bill 76, which is looking at changing some ballot language. Not only is the Library Council opposed, but many local governments and the schools oppose the bill. So they are showing up at Senate hearings where they're allowed to do so to speak up in opposition to that bill. They're concerned about it causing some confusion and also it creating more difficulty for libraries to actually get on the ballot when they need to. And then the fiscal officer succession legislation, the HB 450, that did pass, awaiting governor's signature. Sarah, I hope that there's not going to be any need for us implementing that in the near future, just to let you know how much we love you here and we'd love to see you stay, but there will be a transition regulations if we change fiscal officers at any point in the future. And then the Ohio Library Council wanted us to be sure to help our legislators at the federal level know that there is in the next CARES Act or COVID relief funding, whatever new name they're going to be giving it, there is a piece that is going to be dedicated to funding for libraries to help support internet broadband stabilization services. So we'll, what did I hear on the radio the other day? One of the top federal legislators saying something, we're going to stay here until we get this legislation passed. And okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it. But and then, this is a bigger picture thing, and we'll see how it might trickle down to us. But Penguin Random House purchasing Simon & Schuster. I haven't looked back, and maybe Tracy, I know you like to follow the publishing industry some too, but this would reduce us from big 8 just a couple of years ago down to 4 major publishing concerns in the US.
They're actually talking about having some lawsuits maybe about that for trade. What is that word? What am I thinking of?
Yeah, monopolies is what I can't, yeah. Yeah, I would agree, but it's been announced that that's in process. And so it'd be very interesting to see, what happens if somebody becomes a monopoly that way. I'm not really sure what would happen to the publishing industry. I mean, we already fight battles trying to keep prices reduced. And that's really it. A lot of what we're getting from Ohio Library Council these days is, just what can you do virtually, those kinds of things. And if there's any legislation or, anytime the governor does a press conference, we usually get an update immediately if there's anything that we need to pay close attention to in terms of changes of processes. But it's kind of stay the course for now, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of months. And that's all I have for correspondence.
Okay, number 5, reports, the financial report. Sarah?
All righty, appropriation summaries. For our general fund, for the month of November, we spent $118,000. Out of all the funds for our month-to-date expenditures was $140,732. Bank reconciliation. We had a deposit of $76,067.48 for November PLF. We had payments of $145,587, and we had some adjustments of $4,841. Adjusted bank balance was $891,446. Outstanding payments. You'll notice that on your sheet, there's still an outstanding payment from September. I resolved that issue today, so just to let you know that that's been taken care of. I do have some structured employee benefits dated 11/30 that are still outstanding. Other than that, everything has been cleared. The bank or the post office, I feel like the mail is so slow right now. I need these checks to cash faster. Our general fund cash flow under the actual November. You'll notice for the month of November, our public fund, our PLF, like I mentioned, was $69,284. We received some law library lease for the fourth quarter of $54,1250. Some other receipts, $1,361 for a total of $76,058.50 is what we brought in. And then our totals expenditures that went out was $118,089, which included salaries and benefits, libraries and supplies, and operating expenses. Cash summary by fund. Under expenditures, you'll notice our general fund was $118,089. And then I'd like to point out the 2801 fund, the coronavirus, was $17,503. So as you can see, we're definitely spending that money. We are down to maybe a couple $100 that I need to spend to finish that. Payment listings. Any questions about any payments that I made? You will notice some adjustments. There's a negative adjustment for $641.90. That is a Fayetteville Friends reimbursement. And then we had some Time Warner adjustments, and those were for the E-rate reimbursement. Any questions about any other payments?
Sarah, I was just noticing back on the cash flow.
Yeah.
Our expenditures were higher. I think maybe even the highest we've done yet for a monthly balance year to date. I know that a lot of that, or there was at least a big chunk of that, that was our end of the year
Yes.
materials purchases.
Yes. Yes. So the branches had until, I believe, the 18th of November. I actually had a note to spend their appropriated money for the year. So that's why that is up slightly higher, and most of our employees are back, so salaries are higher as well.
I wasn't sure if there was anything other than the materials that would
No.
have that.
No, we spent a lot of money for books in November. Expenditure reconciliation. This kind of is a breakdown of what I've kind of talked about. Payments, we had 70,840. Our two payrolls were roughly around 28,000. So those are definitely getting higher than they were when we had some people on furlough. Our retirement was $8,041.50. Our Medicare portion for the board was $801.84. Board health, $5,360. And then my local taxes for a total of $147.32.46 was our total expenditures. Fund summary, the second column to the end, that is our current POs for November. We have a $111,322.36. We ended November with open POs. I checked that today because we are trying to get that smaller, and we're at 36,000 for open POs at this moment. So we have a big credit card payment to make, and we have some more paying for some more books. So we're dwindling that down like we should. Questions?
It's not a question, but I'd like to make a comment. So when you look at the appropriation summary, which really does just summarize the expenditures that we've made, we are at the time of this report, we're just about at 92% of the way through the year. And while it doesn't show on this report, out of our general fund, our general operating fund, we've only spent 73.5% of what we had anticipated. So the staff have done a really good job. I mean, we've kept expenses down, even though we've tried to make sure that we've spent the money where it needs to be spent. And obviously we were able to save some along the way with cutting back on some of our staffing while we were, at very reduced services, but we're in really good position financially at the end of this year.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, then are we ready for a motion to accept financial and investment reports, approve paid bills, and accept donations?
I move.
I'll move.
Two.
Okay,
Kathleen,
yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
I'm here, guys.
Oh, Karen's here.
I've been here for a while, guys.
He snuck in. Yes, she
Welcome.
snuck in.
Okay,
Old for a while.
okay. Next is a motion to approve 2021 temporary appropriations as presented.
That, for those of you who got paper mail, that's your pretty goldenrod, lots
Yes.
of pages. In Dropbox, there's a separate folder with individual files, PDF files of it. So this is just as a kind of a refresher of what we do. When we're looking at the next year, we have to have something on record so we can actually conduct business as of January 1st. And so this is our document that allows us to do that. And it's our spending plan, but it's what is called temporary appropriations for the auditor. And what I do is I find a combination of what was presented to the Budget Commission, and then also where realistically, what have we accomplished to this point at this year, so it's close enough to really what's going to happen next year, so we don't have to do too drastic tweaking or a revision come February when we have to make it permanent. So we will have that opportunity to actually close out the 2020 books and have real numbers and have better plans for what's going to take place throughout 2021 before we make these permanent. So just kind of a summary, you've got a revenue plan, which really follows along with what we got in from the local levy and from the PLF this year. I did reduce the PLF a bit here just because we do not know what's going to happen halfway through the year when a new state budget takes place. So I'd rather be very conservative and then have extra money than have to make some huge cuts some way through the year. But the big change in the revenue will obviously be going fine free. I put a little money in there so that if people actually have to pay for lost items, we have a place where that money can come in before it's then turned into, spending the money to replace the materials. And then there's really nothing different about the expense side of the general fund, except that it, and we'll talk about wages and the salary schedule later, but this plan does include the increases that are being proposed. And even so, when I did my calculations, we're still under the 60% on salaries and wages. That's the target for libraries. We're at 16% on materials, and that's where I'd like to see us be able to bolster that some, although we really need to talk about services and, does it have to be so much the materials, or, are we delivering content in other ways? And bottom line, if you look at that, the very last number on your general fund expenditure side, that $427,805, that's where we're always shooting to have $350,000 carry into the year afterwards. So even at this place of just doing an initial draft, we're in a good position with the amount of money that we've saved this year. All the other special funds really continue on as is. We're going to want to put money into the technology fund again. So I put, let's anticipate another $40,000 transfer. The Cook Foundation, we'll talk more about that later also, but you'll see that the money has increased in terms of what we anticipate as revenue there. Paramount Fund, we're hoping that they still wish to help fund programs in Fayetteville. Sardinia expansion, I've still got that on the books as well in the event that we can go ahead and proceed with that. And then our capital improvements includes, an 80,000 transfer sometime during the year into that. Again, we need to keep our capital improvements fund. We need to keep building it so that we have money to take care of our aging facilities. So that's kind of the overall picture. I wonder if anyone has any questions about the process or any of the numbers, or was it way just too many numbers to look at?
So was that 5A3? Do we have a motion? Did we do 5A2? Did we get a motion on that?
Not yet.
Not yet. I move for 5A2 to approve 2021 temporary appropriations as presented.
Okay.
I'll second, Tracy.
Okay, 5A3, motion to approve amended 2020 final appropriations of Coke Fund 2004. Increase
Can I-
revenue to 32,000.
Can I run through the list real fast first, Kathleen? Kathleen,
Yes.
Mark,
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
that's okay. Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
think with these Zoom meetings, we kind of forget.
It's hard without everyone
Moving ahead
really
too
right in
fast.
front of you. Yes.
And the next motion.
So we've had a couple of changes with our funding. And so those final appropriations that were approved last month, we're asking you to amend those a little bit. So Sarah, I don't know if you want to cover that since this is financial.
Sure. So the Cook Fund has graciously donated an additional $25,000 in addition to their $7,000 that they normally donate to the library. So I have to have Jill change our certificate to show $32,000, which is a great thing.
Yeah,
That's great.
okay.
So now I think we are ready there isn't anything else, so we don't have to.
All right. I move.
I second.
Thank you. Kathleen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Or didn't work. Yes.
thank you. Barb,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and Sue.
Come on.
Okay. B, the executive director's report. The building report and statistics.
So you received copies of the building reports that were provided by the managers, and a couple of pictures of things going on as well. I thought it was important to send some of those photos since I can't pass them around a table for everyone to see. So I wonder if there is anything either that board members have questions about, since we have a couple of managers on hand to actually answer specific questions, or if managers have anything they'd like to offer other than what has appeared from their building reports.
I just see COVID, COVID, COVID. That's what I see. Yeah, and obviously, and we all knew, Thanksgiving heading to Christmas, the numbers, and it was going to be a spike. So I see that it's definitely having some type of impact, whether either canceling events or people being nervous about coming in or participating. So I definitely get it. And this was to be expected.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed that and it'll be interesting to see what happens in January again, as we had Halloween gatherings and then Thanksgiving gatherings, and there will be Christmas gatherings. And so, it's snowballing, and, hopefully it will stabilize a little bit, but, from the library side, we haven't had big events of our own that we've had to cancel because, we know how things have been going. We haven't gotten to the point yet of really reducing our services that we are offering. People can still make appointments and come in. We're still doing curbside. Managers might be able to give a little more feedback in terms of what are they seeing on the ground right now? Has there really been a shift from people coming in, for appointments, versus are there, is it kind of moving more to curbside now? I see Tanya nodding her head. So and Heather, so I'm guessing they're starting to see that as well. And if we need to, we will make the decision to actually, start limiting what we see. But my suspicion is that we will have to curtail some services, not so much because of what's going on outside of the library as the fact that more people are being individually impacted, and it's our own staff who are being impacted and have to quarantine. And so we don't have the staffing to be able to provide all of the services that we'd like to. So I think that that's more likely than the other option. Am I right? The two managers' faces I can see. Am I? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Tanya.
And we're seeing a larger number of people canceling appointments and just doing curbside. We had to cancel book club today because we had everybody cancel except for one person. So yeah, most of them are going to curbside now, or the hot spots, and they're sending neighbors to pick them up and then leave them on their front porch because they're all quarantined.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, Tanya. You know, the biggie now, which I never thought of before, is it's the quarantine that's starting to get people, not necessarily the positive people, but those around the positive people having to quarantine because of the positive person. You're seeing that a lot at the schools. And you know what that made me think of too with, I know Barb, Kathleen, Tracy, you know, the Brown County holiday, tournament is coming up. And believe it or not, as of today, they're still planning on having it. But I don't see how you can cram, you know, those are jam-packed every year. And
Gonna be online or something. You can see it. You'll be able to see it. Joanne sent me something that you could tap in to see it. So I don't know if it's going to be open for everyone.
They could do a live stream.
Right.
But you know what's interesting, you know, based upon guidelines, you know, there's, I don't know how many games there are on a day, 8, 9, 10. You know, they're supposed to clear out the gym and sanitize between each game. And I just don't see how they're going to do that and limit the crowds. That's a lot of work.
Right.
And that would be an all day adventure. So, but as of right now, it's still on.
Unreal. Well, it's typical.
So if there aren't any other questions or discussion about the building report, we can talk a little bit about the numbers. The numbers are kind of in line with what you're seeing in libraries across the country with, you know, reduced physical circulation. One of the things I did want to point out was, if you're not aware of it, we do have automatic renewal of our materials. So that was one of the ways that we thought would help reduce the amount of people who are both calling in to do renewals or, you know, maybe coming in. So if they need longer, it's automatically renewed. And of course that will probably play a little bit into our going fine free as well, may help that transition some. But one of the things that I thought about today was the fact that those in-person events, even though there's not a good formula that I have seen to this point, not having people coming in the building and having the opportunity to browse and have that kind of serendipitous experience of, oh, they see something on the shelf that just kind of catches their eye and they pick it up and want to check it out. That's I think a large impact on our circulation as well. It's not just that people are not, you know, interested in checking things out. It's they're not seeing things and picking them up, and so that's one of the things that, again, I'm not sure that we think about. And then when we look at the interlibrary loan numbers, I think that bears out because the interlibrary loan numbers have really not decreased as much as other circulation numbers. People are still ordering, you know, so people will order things, but there's something to be said for that ability to actually come in and see and touch and choose that impacts our circulation. As far as the programs go, and again, managers, you know, you can jump in wherever. a lot of the things that we're doing have the activity kits that go along with them, and the food service. There are activities that go with that. So when you see that in-house attendance and you think that's a scary big number, well, that includes those. If I'm not misstating, it includes those activity packets that we're doing. So don't think that many people are coming in for programs and we're stuffing them all in the building at once. Thoughts, questions? I mean, again, you can look at the digital numbers that we provided to you, the hoopla and all, the digital circulations are up as well. And as far as the chat service, if you had a chance to read that, I really thought the samples that were provided this time in terms of the transcripts were really neat. I think these just show that our staff goes above and beyond in trying to provide really good customer experience, regardless of where that person might be coming from. And here's one of those times where, yes, there is a Brown County, Wisconsin, and there's also Brown County, Indiana, and there's a Brown County in Colorado, and patrons don't always, are not always discerning enough to realize that they may be clicking on a Brown County library that's not in their own state. So that was pretty cool. Questions, thoughts, anything else? If not, I can move on to announcements.
Okay.
I have one question real quick.
Yeah.
When you get CARES Act money, can any of that be earmarked for the Wi-Fi hotspots? Do you know what the situation is in the schools? Are there kids that are still not getting internet access?
So Heather or Tanya, you were both involved in this latest event. So I don't know who wants to talk about it and describe what happened, with the schools and the libraries interacting about hotspots, and kind of give that as an example of the need.
I will just say this. Tracy, we are definitely aware of the problems with schools and not having internet capabilities, the kids, the families, as Mark was saying, the problem is not with people that have positive COVID tests, it's the contact tracing and having to quarantine because of that. We have been contacted directly by the schools. We've been contacted directly by teachers. We have parents. We have, I told the other managers, I have them sending me Facebook messages directly, like, please, can you help my student? And, I have to say we only have 10 at each branch, and, the parents have got to be the ones responsible, and this is what we can do. And we have really tried our best to try to make sure that we're able to meet their needs.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so many we have. We do have the Wi-Fi on 24/7. And when I was talking to the teachers, they are very happy to share that information. And if you drive by our library, you always see cars lined up close to the building using the Wi-Fi, and they're just sitting in there with their laptops doing their schoolwork. And I will say that I had one man and his son, they were quarantined because of contact tracing one day, and I just shoved him in my meeting room. I said, come on, just come straight here, do this. The kid was in there for 20 minutes to finish some test, and then I shoved him back out and then cleaned in there, because I just, I want them to get what they need done. And I think we're all experiencing this, and the schools, especially the teachers, they care so much and they want to help the students. And sometimes, well, as you know, the parents are not the responsible ones, and they're not going to go and try to get those for the students. And, Tanya knows more about that.
I'm going to send you some flyers. I'll send you some digital flyers, Lynn, if you can kind of spread them around. There's something that the state has going now that's called Remote edX, and they have connectivity champions. They're trying to work with the regional ITCs in trying to find internet connectivity options for kids that are stuck at home without them. they're not paying for Wi-Fi. They're not, they're not providing the things, but they're trying to be a resource to help them get things from other sources. So I'll send that to you. And if you can share that, that I know the schools are aware of that. That just rolled out at the beginning of November, so it's relatively new.
Okay.
There's a website where parents can go and log in and request support. There's a place where teachers can go and find ways to teach digitally. I mean, like, it's just kind of an all-in-one kind of place, but I'll get you that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep.
And I think you had initially asked whether CARES money can go for that. We actually had bumped up. We had only had 5 hotspots per branch to start with, and we bumped it up to 10, but we're also looking at this as a long-term commitment. And, we have to balance that with our own budget and think about the fact that, at what point is the public library, providing something that a school should be providing, because we also have to serve other people who are working remotely, and they have to find a way to get access. And so it's a juggling act for us. And, my hope would be that the federal government comes through with the IMLS money, and that might be able to, be something we could use in a certain way. I thought that schools also had an opportunity to get CARES money directly just for that purpose. And so that's something I was a little bit surprised when, we had this kind of an influx all of a sudden of requests from schools that that hadn't happened yet. And maybe it's just a matter of, like everything in the government, it takes a lot of time to get things to actually roll out.
Most of the schools have gotten their money that they're going to get, at least for now. And they were focusing on getting devices for students.
Okay.
So there was a lot of computer purchasing, Chromebooks and things like that, so the kids would have a device for home. And I know, like, Fayetteville Perry has started purchasing Wi-Fi hotspots. So they're kind of beyond the computer part now and trying to get to the connectivity part. So hopefully things will continue to improve.
Yeah, and it may settle out and stabilize. I'm not, I'm not sure that it's ever going to go away, but Brown County in particular really needs to be looking at its broadband abilities, how much connectivity there is here. And when the state gets their legislation done, the county needs to be lobbying for a provider to come and build up the infrastructure so that it is more accessible to more people. Now, not everyone is going to get hit with that or have it come directly to them, but it will, I think, help, a great deal. So that's something for every one of us to be thinking about is, we need to be aware of this and really be pressing our county leaders to be, moving in that direction and talking to the providers. So
I'll drop a link and the flyer in the chat, and then whoever wants to grab it can grab it.
Terrific. Thank you
All right.
so much. So moving on to announcements, you see some facilities things going on. Locker installation is set up for next Monday and Tuesday. And my hope would be that those things will get here actually tomorrow or Friday. Which would be really nice. And I am trying here to get to my screen so I can share with you a picture that I just got. Oh, come on. I'm trying to use multiple screens here and multiple, all right. Let's see, I want it will not let me minimize the screen. Oh. Well, maybe I won't be sharing it with you right now. If I can get to it later, I will definitely do that. But we've actually got a picture of the locker. And all it's letting me do is see my own screen with all of you on it. That really kind of stinks. Okay. So much for that. So the other thing is we have a heat pump that is out at Sardinia, and our HVAC repair guy is having trouble getting parts. So I guess that's not anything new either, but we'll be hopefully getting that fixed soon. I do want to give a shout out to Keith Porter for all the work that he has done so far in helping us to get these lockers put together. He was actually here at Mount Orb today, working with the cabling guys who are finishing up their stuff. And as it turns out, he will be doing the final installation as well, has managed to get himself involved in that, even if he didn't necessarily want to, but he's making sure that it's all going to work for us as we want it to. Here's another thing. I'd like to excuse myself by saying that I was distracted umpteen times yesterday while I was trying to put the announcements and correspondence together. So my proofreading was because of that, but I don't think I can really rely upon that excuse. So my number 2, it wasn't October through November. It was November 19th through December 15th that these activities occurred. And I looked at it, I thought, wow, and we even had a holiday in there. How is so much going on? But that's kind of the nature of the beast right now. There is so much going on. Everyone that, every of the organizations that I'm connected with is just working really hard to try and make sure that we're all doing things appropriately and finding ways to be effective in the way that we deliver our services. Some of the things that we are doing, our staff creatively turned the Georgetown cookie contest into a not everyone sharing, but they did it safely, and I even saw pictures of the winners. Congratulations to Tanya and her team for carrying that out. And I haven't heard, has the gingerbread house contest finished yet, ladies, or is that I saw some people kind of cheated on their gingerbread houses, Heather. Yeah. So they're really trying to keep some traditions, and even if patrons can't all bring in their tasty goods and share in that way, they can somehow participate. I think I mentioned that we're looking at some self-service checkout last month. So we're getting closer to that. We're to the point of deciding some parameters for getting that up and running. And we have decided as a management team not to add the Saturday hours in immediately beginning in January. We're going to kind of wait and see what happens with the COVID progress and ensure that we have enough staff available to do that. And we're hoping that, by February, things maybe will have come to a point where either we've got it under control within our staff members, or else we have to make a decision to postpone it a little bit later. I certainly hope not. I want to see us be able to continue to offer services when patrons want them. Sarah talked about spending the grant money. So now, even though we had some big chunk of money not allocated and spent, now almost every penny is actually allocated, and we just have some payouts to make. And then she also mentioned the Cook Foundation has given us a larger chunk of money. We'll talk about that later as well. And then just a reminder about our Christmas hours, and that, people are really interested in what libraries are doing. I'm surprised at the number of times I've been contacted and look for SALT Magazine's issue in toward the end of January for more information about what other libraries are doing as well. And I know that was a lot. Sorry about that, but there we are.
Okay. The Personnel Committee report, minutes from February and December 2020 meetings.
Barb?
Barb, Karen, Tracy?
We had a Zoom meeting December 1st. The minutes are included, and we'll talk about it more in executive session.
Okay. Okay, number 6, motion to approve contract with Perfectly Polished Cleaning for custodial services at Georgetown, Mount Orb, and Sardinia for the period of January the 1st to December 31st, 2021, at the rate of $32,988.36 for the contract period. Georgetown, $14,138.16. Mount Orb, $12,567.24. Sardinia, $6,283.56. Do we have a motion?
Did
I'll
I
move.
do that incorrectly? Should it say 96 cents? Did anybody do my math there with me?
I noticed it.
Did you? I figured you might. So let's make that correction now before we have to amend it. It should be not 32.98, 988 and 36 cents. It should be 96 cents. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I move to approve.
I second.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy? Maybe.
Yes, sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Barb,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Okay, next is the Georgetown Facility Project discussion.
I didn't unmute myself quickly enough. I just wanted to add that the cleaning contract is the same dollar amounts as last year, so that did not increase any. I wanted you all to be aware of that. And they're actually adding the service of 1 time per year per branch for carpet and upholstery cleaning at no additional charge. So
That's good.
yeah, very happy with that.
Good.
Wow. So the Cook Family Foundation saw fit to let us know that they had some additional monies that had become available and that they wanted us to consider what we might do with that for the Georgetown Building. And we came up with a proposal on short notice to do that. And they have given us verbal commitment for $25,000 this year to make improvements to that. And before we head into this kind of a project, you know, I want the board to be fully aware of it. And, you know, when we've done construction before, we've had actually a building committee. And so I want the board to have the ability to have whatever input they want and not just limited to, you know, tonight's conversation. My sense is that this could be a multi-year funding opportunity. I got that impression as well, is that it could be a couple of years, could be more than that. We might see anywhere up to $100,000 over the course of this. You know, maybe less, maybe more. And I think part of it will be based upon not just their financial ability, but about also upon what we do with the money. And so my thought is that this is our opportunity to have some funding and to do some big picture. Let's look at this not just as we want some fresh paint and new carpet, but this is an opportunity for us to look at preparing for future services. How do we restructure pieces of our building that we maybe wouldn't be able to do otherwise? And continue to balance, preparing for modern usage with the unique character of the building at the same time. And I know Tanya will have plenty to say about, what some of these plans are as well, because quite honestly, I'd seen some of her brainstorming with her staff on a kind of a poster board and took that to create this document for the Cook Foundation. So this is really first draft level. But I see it being multi-year project, and just wonder, maybe first, Tanya, what else the board would want to or should know about, kind of what you see needing done before they start asking questions or giving us some guidance with this.
And I'll apologize right now. My dog is playing, so it gets really loud. I think, we really started looking at some areas that we need to update. The lobby was high on our list, and that kind of rolled into some other areas. Talking about, the DVDs and how much time it takes to pull the browsers. And when we did our brainstorming, we were just throwing out all kinds of ideas. We went really big. I figured we could go big and then whittle it down a little. So, we started looking at some of the vending machines for DVDs. So looking at restructuring, helping patrons be more self-sufficient, and taking less staff time to do all those tedious little things where we could be using our talents and time somewhere else, as we transition and kind of shift our focus of what we're doing every day.
Okay, any more discussion? No? Okay, number 8, a motion to enter executive session to consider the employment of public employees.
So before we go into executive session, I'm just wondering whether, this is something that, knowing that we have the Shelton Trust, which the trustees want to spend that money and dissolve the trust, whether this is something that the board also might consider putting some of our own operating money into helping match some of this. And again, I'm not asking for a commitment or a specific dollar amount tonight, but knowing that, the Cook Foundation will step up, is it something that the board would look at? Okay, we can put $10,000 a year towards helping with whatever project is being funded at the time. So that's something that I'm also, as we figure out some of the details and can actually bring them to you and say, okay, here's how much this would cost. Here are some proposals that we've gotten. That's something I want you to be thinking about. And along those lines, I've already asked Matt Bauman, I said to him, we may have a project. Would you consider coming in and talking to us about what library design might be able to do? Because they don't just do, furniture and moving. They can help plan space and design those kinds of things. There's also an organization called IAP, which stands for something, it's a government services group. They're project managers, basically. They'll do RFPs, they will help coordinate, they'll manage the project, they'll do the bid documents if you have to get to that point. And then, as providential as it was, in the mail, I get a leaflet from a company called SHP, which does strategic planning, space planning, architectural design. And in here are huge pictures of the Lane Library's Oxford branch, that they did. So I'm thinking we have plenty of opportunity to reach out and ask for proposals, so that we can look at this big picture, not just a paint here, carpet there, but what could we do, and what are ways that we might be able to do this in phases so that we're not, entirely shut down and can continue to operate while we're looking at it. So those are the things that I want you to be thinking about, because we'll be coming back to ask questions and maybe even ask for some commitment later on. So sorry about that. I just want to make sure that we're all clear.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay. And if you are ready to go to executive session, I will make sure we stop recording and stop broadcasting.
All right. I move we into executive session.
I'll second.
Okay, go on.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Karen.
Yeah.
And Sue.
Yes.
All right.